Hi, this is Chad Brown with Chad Brown Law. I am going through my series Winning and Losing, where I dive into the factors that really determine why people win and lose Social Security disability cases. Today I want to talk about what can be a positive factor. I guess it could be a negative factor as well. But honestly, the thing you need to understand is the ALJ that's assigned to your case is probably the most important factor in your case. And how that ALJ handles cases and deals with fact patterns that come with your case are how they do that is going to probably be the biggest factor that goes into whether you win or lose. Okay, so I don't really want to talk about administrative law judges in terms of good or bad judges. I don't think that's really fair. I go in front of a lot of judges and have over the last 15 years. Generally, we see judges with higher approval ratings and we see judges with lower approval ratings. Okay, so generally, if you ask someone on the street what a good judge is, it's someone with a higher approval rating. Okay, and to some degree, I agree with that. And obviously, if you have a judge with a higher approval rating, you certainly, at least statistically, should have a better chance of winning your case. If you have a judge with a lower approval rating, then statistically, you should have a lower chance of winning your case. I don't think, though, that it's really that simple. I think the thing people need to understand is that ALJs are unique individuals. They are never neutral. Neutrality with respect to administrative law judges or any judge is, in my opinion, a myth. Almost all judges come to the table with some level of presupposition about how they're going to assess your case. Okay? In the past, I think you could say accurately, some judges started with the idea that if you took the time to come into the system, then you were probably disabled or you wouldn't be there. That is, they started with the idea that you were likely disabled. Okay? Those judges typically had higher approval ratings because they're starting with the point of, you're probably disabled, I'm probably going to approve you unless I see evidence not to. On the other end of the spectrum, you have judges that you were not likely disabled. Okay? So it's not hard to understand. If a judge starts with the idea that you're not likely disabled unless they see something to the contrary, then it's difficult to win. The idea that a judge sort of starts here in the middle and then goes one way or the other based on the evidence, in my experience, is not very accurate. Now, you need to understand something. Almost every ALJ would tell you that this is where they start. What I'm telling you is practically after doing thousands and thousands of disability hearings, that's probably not true. Most judges are starting from one position or another, and your job is to either keep them there or move them. Now, in the past, I would say 10 years ago, a lot of times I think this was sort of absolute. You had judges who started from one position or another, and you pretty much knew where you were going to fall. I think it's a little more nuanced than that today. Today, what I would tell you is very often you have judges who believe certain claimants are likely disabled and certain claimants are likely not disabled. So, for example, instead of having a judge who says, I believe people come into the system because they're likely disabled, they may say, I believe people that are over 55 are likely disabled. I believe people that are under 50 are not likely disabled. Some of that's probably fair because the rules aren't the same for people at different ages. But one of the things I think you need to understand is your judge that you go in front of is likely not neutral. They're probably not neutral to your case, and they're usually starting in closer to one of these corners than they are in sort of some middle position of neutrality. If you have a judge that's starting from the position that you are likely disabled, then that's clearly a positive factor. If they're starting from a position that you're not likely disabled, then that's a negative factor. The thing you need to understand is this is something you need to know when you go into your hearing. Let me reiterate that. You need to know where the administrative law judge you're going in front of is falling on this continuum with your specific type of case. In fact, this factor alone is why, one, most people need an attorney when they handle a disability case. And they usually need an attorney that's familiar with the judge they're going in front of. Okay? In the best scenario, you'll be in a hearing with an attorney who has a very strong understanding of the presuppositions that certain judges bring to the table, because then that attorney will be able to help you understand what points of the evidence you need to focus on and what you need to deal with and maybe what's not important. So the ALJ is the most positive factor in a case, or potentially the most negative factor in a case, but without a doubt, they're the most important factor in a case. So if you start to understand how people think, and the idea that neutrality really is sort of a myth, and that judges are really sort of starting on one end of the spectrum or another, then you start to have a lot better idea how you need to handle the facts of your case, how you handle problems with your case, and really importantly, how you handle your alleged onset date. Because honestly, let's say, for example, you start with a judge who's not likely to pay someone who's under 50, but they have a pretty good pay rate for people that are over 50. That is, with a case under 50, they start over here, but with a case over 50, they start over here. Well, then you may need to amend your onset date to your 50th birthday if you've turned 50 during the process. You may not understand that or like that, but the reality is simply shifting the onset date may put you on a different end of the continuum and start the judge in a different position with your case, where now they think you likely are disabled. So the point is, the ALJ is the most important factor. They're not neutral. You need to understand that, and the better you understand the specific judge you're in front of, the better chance you have of getting a positive result, and that judge that's in your case ending up being a positive factor rather than a negative one.